Hey everyone, welcome to the Counsel of Trent podcast. I'm your host, Catholic Answers apologist and speaker, Trent Horn.
Hi there, Cavadava Ding Dong speaker and host Trent Horn. How's it going? I'm handsome, famous and good at the sexer, Sir Sick. It's nice to be here in your book cupboard. And on that note, why do you guys often feel the need to be sat in front of so many books? You know it doesn't magically make you look smart, right? If you wanted to look smart, you should do what I do and make fake certificates and put your face onto stock graduation photos. Preferably the class ones, so that you look like you graduated 30 times in a single image. Check out this legitimate picture of me passing at both top and bottom of my class.
And today I want to talk about atheism.
Oh, good. I'll bet this isn't going to be an extremely silly video where someone sits there, says a bunch of stupid shit about things they don't understand, and then makes some grand proclamations as if they have a brain larger than a desiccated raisin. Because, you know, that never happens on this channel.
Or a part of atheism that I think has a fundamental flaw.
Oh, part of atheism has a flaw? Oh my goodness. How could this happen? No, I'm not being facetious. Literally, how on earth could that possibly happen? Atheism is simply a mind state of I don't buy your God claims. I mean, I could be wrong for whatever reason. I could not understand them, but that wouldn't change the fact that I don't believe them for whatever reason or reasons. And to say that there is fault in something that describes what I think about the world is to believe that you get to decide what reality is for me. And I'll be honest, I don't think you get to do that. Mostly because my reality is very whiskey focused, and I'm not sure you could ever be drunk enough to keep up.
But to understand why, I need to talk about something else called the God of the Gaps objection.
Okay. I mean, I love me some God of the Gaps arguments, mostly because they are the laziest form of argumentation that theists ever seem to engage in. Mostly because it's one that over the centuries has almost always been directly refuted by actual discoveries about how the universe works. So at some point, you should be looking back and thinking, maybe I shouldn't just assume that because we don't know now, that we never ever will, so I don't look like a fucking moron.
So basically it goes like this. God of the Gaps objection claims that arguments for the existence of God, they all fail.
Wait, what? God of the Gaps says all arguments for God fail. All of them from that one thing. What the fuck are you talking about? The God of the Gaps objection doesn't say that? How the fuck could it? Not all arguments for God are we don't know X, therefore God did it and must exist? Who the hell is saying this ridiculous nonsense? Only total morons, and certainly not even remotely close to some concept of atheism in general. In fact, I, an idiot, rarely bring up the God of the Gaps, because most arguments aren't that. They are often this thing that we know exists proves God, even though we already have a perfectly reasonable explanation for that thing. It's less God of the Gaps and more God of the already known, why is he even fucking here? Go home, God, you're drunk. Than me, and that's saying something.
Because they all essentially say the same thing.
You know, for a religious boy speaking on the subject, you don't appear to know all that much about your own argumentation, do you? I mean, that's assuming if you agree with that stance, but see some other random flaw in it. Obviously of your own design, because no one fucking says that.
Here's something we can't explain, or here is a gap in our knowledge. God explains the gap in our knowledge, therefore God exists.
Yeah, okay, that is a fine explanation for the God of the Gaps argument. Well done, you get a gold star. But seriously, not all arguments for God are that thing. I mean, not even close. And just to be clear, that's not to say they aren't often, or you know, almost always, fallacious in other ways, but they certainly aren't all the same fallacy. Otherwise, all atheist channels would be God of the Gaps counters and nothing else.
In other words, you can't argue in this way.
Hey. No one said that you can't argue like an idiot. It's just if you do that, everyone is going to think that, you know, you're an idiot. And if you don't want to be that, you shouldn't argue in that way. Although personally, I would say that's all you guys should do, because it makes everything you say so incredibly funny.
I don't know what caused X, therefore God exists. That's a bad argument.
Okay, and the way you worded it there is certainly something to talk about. I don't know something, therefore God. Well, I don't think that accurately describes God of the Gaps, since God of the Gaps is more about the collective we not knowing something. But I don't know it, therefore God done did it is still wearily common, and is instead an argument from ignorance, and is so surprising that many theists do make such claim. And by surprising, I mean they do very often don't know things and should really sort that shit out.
Now, the unexplained thing, it might be morality or the beginning of the universe.
Both of those things have explanations. What are you talking about? Now, for the beginning of the universe, sure, most of it is hypothetical, but I would argue any naturalistic explanation is more likely than something that I have no proof for and no way to determine the characteristics of did it, over nature, a thing that we know exists and does things, being the overarching theme of the explanation. But morality, I mean, that keeps coming up recently, at least in my videos. And again, it's not something without explanation. In fact, it is a very obvious explanation, being survivability. Humans that do things that make other humans happy and healthy are more likely to survive, because, at least in the early days, what would be the point of keeping you around if you weren't like that? It's not exactly complicated, seriously.
Or the existence of something rather than nothing.
I don't think that that's a question that could have evidence, really. I mean, if there wasn't anything, you wouldn't be able to ask the question in the first place. But sure, that's still a God of the Gaps because God did it. And that's still not a useful answer, because then you need well, why did he do it? Because he wanted to. Why did he want to? Because he was bored. Why was he bored? Because whiskey wasn't invented yet. And oh, you know what? He might have a point.
Whatever it is, atheists say we don't want to rush to a supernatural explanation because we might miss an undiscovered or unknown natural explanation.
To be fair, most of the examples you have been giving here have been, there is a natural explanation, but I'm going to go supernatural anyway because I haven't bothered to look into how that doesn't conform to my pre-established worldview, which, you know, is kind of lame. Perhaps if you spent more time looking for non-supernatural explanations, you might know about them. I know, that's a strange concept. Expanding your knowledge by using actual efforts to do so. Wild.
And actually, a lot of Christians feel the same way.
What exactly would you call a lot? Because while I am sure there are what one might call reasonable Christians out there, and the number of them might even be a high number of humans if you were to stuff them all into a phone box, and, you know, entertaining too. But is it actually a lot in terms of the overall number of Christians? Because I kind of doubt that. I mean, the number of Christians who believe in literal heaven and hell and all that other unprovable nonsense, last I checked, it was like 70 to 80% in the land of your likely accent. So I doubt many of them are looking to likely naturalistic explanations of things first and foremost. So by a lot, you almost certainly don't mean anywhere near most. And that, my friend, is a huge problem. Almost as huge as my peen.
The Lutheran pastor and Holocaust victim Dietrich Bonhoeffer once wrote this. He wrote, "How wrong it is to use God as a stopgap for the incompleteness of our knowledge."
I mean, that's not entirely fair, but just because he said it, that doesn't mean that's how many folks do things. One smart boy theist does not make theists smart boys. If anything, they tend to shine a light on how often the stupid arguments come up. I mean, I get complaints all the time. Sick, why'd you go after the low-hanging fruit? Spelt with 2 O's, obviously. And apart from the fact that because I'm a fucking comedy channel and that shit is hilarious, it's also infinitely more common. So many of the most popular theist quote-unquote thinkers and speakers push the lowest hanging fruit all the time. It's like asking me, why do I drink most of my whiskey out of glasses? Because that's how most often it's served, jackass.
If in fact the frontiers of knowledge are being pushed further and further back, and that is bound to be the case, then God is being pushed back with them and is therefore continually in retreat.
That motherfucker really doesn't sound like much of a theist if you ask me. I mean, I'm sure there is more to it, and I'm sure he had his workarounds to say such a damning thing while remaining a religious boy. But yeah, that's one of the many things that leads me to think God doesn't real. Because whenever we don't know something, we eventually figure it out. And at no point did we pull back the curtain to find the wizard sat there, surprised it took us so fucking long to find him.
On the one hand, I agree that arguments for God should start
at the end. I mean, how am I supposed to believe in something as ridiculous as capital G God if I don't already believe and work backwards from there? Because if I start with I don't believe and I am actually going to check all the things that we know for him, I'm probably going to end up thinking that it's all a little bit silly. Something like that?
not from what we don't know, but from what we do know.
Oh my god, how original and unique. It's not like that was already happening all the time. Like seriously, most of the arguments I hear are just, here's my interpretation of the facts of reality. Although to be fair, it's still better than what the flat earthers and the creationists do, since they don't base it on God of the gaps or what we know, but just shit they made up that makes no fucking sense. It's a bold strategy, I will give them that.
They should start with effects we observe, and then reason to a cause for those effects.
And the effect should always be, God did it, right? I mean, we have worked out the causes for many, if not most of the things that we see in the universe. So we really don't actually need to be sitting down on our own trying to figure this out. We can actually look at the sciencing that has been done already. Also, reasoning to a conclusion isn't necessarily the same thing as coming to the correct conclusion. Especially if you are working with incomplete information, or if your reasoning is based on faulty logic.
And then show that that cause must have divine attributes.
Show? How? How the fuck has anyone ever done that? I mean, I have heard a lot of people say that whatever thing they are talking about must have divine attributes, mostly because of the I decided school of thought. But I have yet to hear anything even remotely convincing in that regard, mostly because divinity is fairy tale bullshit, but also because it's unfalsifiable, because you know fairy tale bullshit.
We shouldn't just act like Bill O'Reilly.
Oh god, no one should ever act like Bill O'Reilly. They'll end up doing it live, and I'm pretty sure that'll get you arrested in most countries.
In this clip, in a conversation he had with atheist David Silverman.
Oh god. This is still one of the most entertaining exchanges I think exists on the internet. And I'm not going to play the whole thing, but essentially, if you don't know already, they are having a discussion about God and all that junk. And then Bill cranks out this absolute belter of a point in the favor of God being real.
I'll tell you why it's not a scam, in my opinion. All right? Tide goes in, tide goes out. Never a miscommunication. You can't explain that.
Which is just the most incredible piece of ignorance to ever be broadcast in the history of ever. And is one of the funniest things I ever heard in my damn life. I mean, that's a really old clip in atheist circles, but even those of you who have been around forever, you cannot tell me that's not still absolutely hilarious. Bill is just a walking, talking argument from ignorance, if I ever did see one.
On the other hand,
I mean, are you not going to explain why you shouldn't act like Bill? Oh, blimey, I am an idiot. I mean, you're not wrong, but what exactly about what he said was wrong? You know, aside from the obvious, aka all of it. Unless you've just been told that this clip makes Bill look like a fucking fool. And you were like, does it? Okay, if you say so. I mean, I don't know why, but if someone tells me something, I immediately believe it. Oh shit, that's exactly what happened, isn't it?
I worry that atheists who lean too much into the God of the Gaps objection.
You mean the atheists who have this version of the objection that doesn't exist? Yeah, f*** those guys. They just walk around leaving straw all over my house anyway. and they say shit that doesn't make sense or know about arguments that aren't God of the Gaps. Yeah, you are right to hate them. Those guys suck.
They'll end up making atheism as unfalsifiable as some religions.
That doesn't... What? What the hell is that supposed to mean? Apart from the fact that basically all religions are unfalsifiable, except maybe ones that might be like, yeah, the sun, it grows our food and it kills our enemies and will blind you if you look upon its glory for too long. All of those things are true and provable, especially the enemy's part. Don't make me throw you into the sun for disagreeing with me. And yeah, that would be a religion of demonstrable facts. So are the unfalsifiable ones that you are talking about yours and others like it? And even then, just because someone doesn't believe what you tell them because you don't give them evidence, that's like the opposite of unfalsifiable. That's like, I don't even know what, but it's just really dumb.
Or they won't be able to answer this question.
Oh, so here it is, the question. One that we atheists cannot answer because we like things that we believe to have evidence and apparently don't understand other types of religious arguments exist at all. I mean, in that regard, shouldn't it be, do you know that other kinds of this shit that isn't a God of the Gaps exists? Checkmate all atheists, God now exists because facts and logic, or something like that.
What would prove God exists?
Oh, it doesn't even go with the theme. Great. So, okay, what would prove to me that God exists? Data, and lots of it. And it would all have to be best explained by supernatural means, and not be better explained by natural ones. Otherwise, I'm going to have to go with the natural explanations, so I don't appear to be a fucking idiot. That's how ideas are proven to be correct, or at least most likely to be correct. But the simple fact is, there's nothing that I know of that cannot be explained with naturalistic explanations of some kind or another. Even if that explanation is currently hypothetical, if there's a chance that it is true, it is always going to be better than God did it. End of story.
Wait, before you go, I have something super important to tell you. It's life or death. It will change everything forever. Nope, wait, it's gone. Oh well, probably wasn't important. But while I have you, don't forget to comment, subscribe and notify. And if you want more of my smexy voice, check out Mrs. Six's channel Spoonstaff Stories, where I narrate and voice all the videos, and she does the work. And if you want to support the channel, check out the merch store for cool t-shirts, or check out Patreon, memberships and PayPal to support directly. Finally, follow me on the medias of social to get completely pointless guff and to keep up on the latest releases. Oh, I just remembered what I was going to tell you. Whatever you do, don't touch the